Has temporarily eased restrictions imposed last week on China's Huawei. The telecom equipment maker is still prohibited from buying American parts and components to make new products, but it will be allowed to buy what it needs to maintain existing networks and provide software updates to existing handsets. FT with a big piece on how, David, they're going to try to start developing their own operating system, but who knows whether or not futures are reflecting this a bit of a give back to keep things smooth.
It does appear to be. I mean, perhaps somewhat unexpected given what we'd seen earlier, late last week and yesterday in terms of the 90 days. Gives some flexibility towards the talks as well, Carl, of course, the prospect perhaps that at least is some sort of an olive branch to the Chinese that would allow them to potentially consider resuming talks. But it doesn't necessarily mean that Huawei is still not in a very precarious position over the long term. Of course it is. We're talking about a company that bought $11 billion worth of chips from U.S. manufacturers over the course of the last year and is reliant on many of those companies for both chips and, as you point out as well, and we know from Google yesterday, things in terms of software and the Android operating system and the various things that are offered as a part of that. That are not just off the rack.
Yeah. Meantime, Jim, President Xi telling crowds in China, we are now embarking on a new long march, and we must start all over again. So the rhetoric over there not letting up.
No, I always loved Mao. I mean, he was a mass killer. Yes, one of the great mass killers of all time. So the idea that he gets invoked just really shows you that we're going nowhere fast. I think that President Xi ought to start realizing that our president is not waiting for talks to begin. Our president does not want them to talk. He wants them to cave. That I don't think is going to occur. But this new reprieve, it's good for the stock market. How much of the moves by the White House or by the Commerce Department are dictated by, wow, the markets start to fall. Let's get the markets back. Because I got to tell you, they are so not in a mood to deal with the Chinese. They've had it. And the idea that the Chinese are going to give it at all, they've decided, forget it. They can run on this. The president's going to run on this issue. And I think he thinks he's going to get reelected on it. The hardliners are in charge. The hardliners, I believe, actually want regime change. They don't want the long march. But the long march tells me that the PLA may be really in charge in China. I think that some people regard my view as extreme. I think my view is accurate.
South Korea exports overnight, Jim. Pretty ugly. Exports down 11. Chip exports down 33. This is for the first few weeks of May. But meantime, Jim, some commentary from technicians that maybe the semis are getting a little washed out here. What do you think?
Well, look, I mean, it's 8 to 15% maximum earnings hit. There are a lot of research out today which just says these are all overdone. The one to watch is Skyworks Solutions. That's the one that's down about 30 points. That has the most exposure. It's a really good company. We often talk about Texas Instruments, Carl. That is a stock that has just got hammered by this. They have some exposure. But again, watch Apple. I mean, Apple is the one that they're supposed to retaliate, and the long march is supposed to be the long march away from Apple. I haven't seen that happen yet. It is amazing that she invoked the term long march. Wow, that's been buried for a long time.
But Apple has been decidedly weak. Jim, you have pointed to that as the name when we've gone through, well, what would be the response to Huawei, despite this 90-day period? What would be the response? And you come back to Apple because you said it's not Starbucks. It's probably not going to be Nike. And it has suffered. We can see it right there.
Oh, down from 210. I mean, it's been abysmal. Everybody hates it all of a sudden. There's been a decided move away from tech, as we've seen, both the tech that has exposure to China and the tech that doesn't have exposure. The money's coming back to managed care. It's coming back to health care. I'm at the Healthy Returns Conference. And it's pretty simple. Why? Joe Biden does not favor single payer. And that has meant all the difference in the world, that the money is running from semis into managed care. Maybe you get a reprieve from the selling in semis, but I would not count on it, given the fact that the president is mercurial at best when it comes to negotiating with the Chinese.